national level. So therefore, the caste census was considered to be a very, very important issue. And the Supreme Court has also been insisting upon the collection of data for justification of the reservation given to the SC, STs and socially and educationally backward classes of people, and also the other backward classes in direct recruitment and promotion, and for even the educational program. So what is most important is that the caste data we are utilizing in this country to justify the reservation and social justice scheme is of 1931, which was collected during the British regime. And then after the government of India ceased to collect the caste census, caste data of the other backward classes and rest of the population of this country except the SC. And therefore, since many years, this demand is in continuation. However, the governments have come and governments have gone, but they have not made any decision in this regard. So far, the previous UPA government had decided to collect the socio-economic data of the other backward classes, but they have not released. The subsequent government hasn't released the data about that. Though there has been a huge spending from the state exchequer on collection of data, but data hasn't been released, and therefore there are many hurdles on justification of the social justice schemes and the protective discrimination and the safeguards provided to the SC, ST, OBC people. So in this connection, there are many movements going on. So many people have joined us on this in this meeting, particularly those who have carried on their marches also for demanding the caste-based census. Now we have Anirudh Singh Vidrohi, who took out the march from the Rajasthan to Delhi and in Bihar to Delhi, and he is also planning to take out another march in Uttar Pradesh. So there are such kind of people, and there are some other people who are openly speaking on this topic for seeking the caste census. And therefore, we have decided to invite Professor Ravi Verma Kumar. He is an expert on this topic, and therefore we held this meeting today. Now I request Rishi Raj Singh to introduce our eminent guest for all of us. Thank you. I request Rishi Raj Singh.
Yes. Good evening, everyone. Today, we are delighted to have Senior Advocate Professor Dr. Ravi Verma Kumar amongst us. Although it is difficult to enumerate his efforts and contributions in a brief introduction, however, we'll try to cover as much ground as possible. To begin with, Professor Kumar has had a long and inspiring career as a lawyer as well as a senior advocate. He studied law in Bangalore and began his practice in the year 1975. He was appointed the Advocate General of the state of Karnataka in the month of May of 2013. He is considered as an authority on matters pertaining to constitutional law, election law, anti-defection law, social justice, affirmative action, reservation policies, human rights, public interest litigation, election law, service law, and the law on education. He argued in the famous 1992 case of Indira Sahani versus Union of India and secured the representation for the other backward classes. He also defended the Havanur report on backward classes during the same case. Furthermore, he has argued in the landmark case of Ashok Thakur versus Union of India, which was in the year 2008, and advocated that the creamy layer principle should not be applicable to Article 15, Clause 5 of the Indian Constitution, as reservation, as he pointed out, is not a poverty alleviation program. Furthermore, he also appeared in the case relating to the sharing of the water of the Kaveri River between the state of Karnataka and the state of Tamil Nadu. It is also famously known as the Kaveri River Disputes case. In addition to the above, in the Supreme Court, Professor Kumar appeared in the case of Dr. Ramdas of the PMK versus Union of India and demanded a caste census. In the High Court of Karnataka, his celebrated cases include prevention of the construction of a 5-star hotel in Nagarhole National Park, a quo warranto against the then Chief Minister, and the Arak bottling case. In 2009, he was awarded the prestigious Dr. K. Veermani Award for Social Justice, which is also popularly known as the Periyar Award, for his contributions as a propagator of social justice and for championing the cause of the scheduled castes, the scheduled tribes, and the other backward classes. It must be noted that he is the founder trustee of the organization known as Lawyers Forum for Social Justice. He has also served as the first chairman of Backward Classes Commission, which was set up in the year 1997. He headed the commission till the year 2000 and presented about 85 reports to the state government, which include the ones on reservation in private sector, reservation for couple and children in inter-caste and inter-religion marriages, the creamy layer policy to get the best talent from each caste or tribe, revision of the list of the other backward classes, and caste enumeration in the census. His role as a lead lawyer was instrumental in getting the practice of Made Snana, which is the custom of rolling over the banana leaves, which was performed by where the food was eaten by the priestly caste members, and the rolling over was performed due to the custom by the members of the oppressed castes. And he made the practice, that particular custom, he made it outlawed. In 2020, when Amnesty International's India chapter was under a financial ban, he even got the financial ban removed. It is interesting to note that when the Constitution of South Africa was being drafted, his senior was invited by Mr. Nelson Mandela to give recommendations on the same. During that time, Professor Kumar accompanied his senior to South Africa, and his inputs were also incorporated in the South African Constitution. He has also been at the forefront of the legal battle to secure 50% reservation in favor of women in political institutions, particularly the local bodies. He has championed the causes of the landless laborers and tenants and has conducted over 15,000 cases on behalf of tenants to secure ownership on principle of land to the tiller policy under the Karnataka Land Reforms Act. He has argued in over 30,000 cases. He has handled numerous high-profile matters and has represented ministers of the union as well as the state level. He has been awarded PhD and DLit as honorary causa by several prestigious universities. With this, we invite Professor Dr. Ravi Verma Kumar to take over the mic. So Professor Kumar, the floor is all yours. Thank you.
Much, Mr. Rishiraj, for such generous words appreciating my work. I congratulate this forum for taking up this all-important issue of caste census. I am particularly delighted to see Mr. Nitin Meshram taking an active role in organizing such national webinars. And more importantly, it's a very timely discussion that is needed because the 2021 census is about to be commenced and the exercise has already begun. Now, before they print the questionnaire, it is appropriate that a policy decision is taken on the question whether caste census should be part of the program and whether the questionnaire should include that particular issue. So with these prefatory remarks, I once again congratulate the forum for taking up this issue for discussion. Mr. President, Mr. Dhimant P.R. Ambedkar, my good friend Mr. Nitin Meshram, my esteemed fellow social justice activists, thank you very much for giving me the honor of inaugurating this all-important webinar, and wish you a grand success in your struggle to achieve the enumeration of caste in the caste census. Before I give you the importance of the caste census, let me tell you that the present day census that is being carried out, it collects all details about man and women, that is about sex, then about age, then about religions, then about scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. Caste-wise, tribe-wise, data is collected. In other words, 17% of the minorities and about 25% of the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes, their enumeration is comprehensive and all details relating to them are collected. In other words, 40% of the population receives comprehensive coverage in the census. Only in respect of 60%, that is mainly Shudras, the data is not collected caste-wise. As a result of it, it has been reduced to the status of a head count, like we count the cattle, we count the sheep. There is no demographic data available caste-wise in respect of others. Now, if we go back to history, you remember that almost all the public posts were occupied by Brahmins, not only in the south, but also in the north, that is throughout the country. Brahmins occupied all the strategic positions. They were the ministers to the rulers. They were the advisors to the kings. They were the prime ministers. They were Raj Purohits. So politically, it was under their advice that the administration was carried out. Spiritually, their leadership as Purohits, the entire community was under their spell. It is in this backdrop we see that the first ever census conducted by the British administration was in the year 1872. In the year 1872, when the data was collected, the demographic details of all the castes became very clear. In particular, the myth that the Brahmin population is a huge population, accounting for a substantial percentage of the Hindu community, was exploded, and it was demonstrated that their overall percentage in the nation is not even 4% of the total population. Can you mark it? Not even 4%. This was the truth that was discovered in the year 1872 after the first census. Now, this led to a very serious development. Though they had their control elsewhere in the country, in the princely state of Mysore, their numbers opened the eyes of the rulers. And in 1874, the first order of reservation was promulgated. Kindly mark it. First ever order of reservation is from the princely state of Mysore in 1874. This was not an order to provide reservation in favor of backward classes. This was not an order to provide reservation in favor of scheduled castes or scheduled tribes or deprived classes as they were known. But this was an order when the administration discovered that Brahmins have a monopoly of all the public posts. 1874, for a population of just 3%. See, their population was below 2 lakhs. at a time when 60 lakh was the population of the princely state of Mysore. About 11 lakh population, scheduled castes and scheduled tribes were there. Even considering that the scheduled castes and scheduled tribes were not sufficient, they were known as depressed classes then, they were not sufficiently educated to qualify to occupy the administrative post. The rest of the population, in the rest of the population, their population was 22nd, 1/22. That is 1 part of 22nd, 22 was the population of Brahmins. So the administration decided that they have an unjust enrichment in representation in the services. So in the police department, where it was very important, for the first time, 1874, the posts of inspectors of police, sub-inspectors of police, head constables, and jamedars came to be reserved not only in favor of the non-Brahmin population, but also in favor of Brahmins. Brahmins were given a reservation of 2 posts out of 10. And 8 posts out of 10 had to be filled up by consideration of the claims of non-Brahmins, particularly the Muslims and other Shudra castes. It is at that point of time, the Mysore administration thought that they will be able to bring down the preponderance of Brahmins in the state administration, in the police department. This order was reinforced in the year 1895 when Mr. Diwan Madhura was the Diwan. And even after that, it was discovered that there was no substantial reduction in the preponderance of Brahmins in the police department. A very interesting question was asked by one of the leading non-Brahmin leaders of the state. He went to the Maharaja and asked, Maharaja, from whom are you taking the taxes? Those were the days when the entire revenue of the state depended on the tax on land revenue. So Maharaja answered saying that, yes, I am collecting the money, the entire money for the state exchequer is coming from the land taxes, that is from the cultivators or the farmers. So this leader, Mr. Basar, his name is Basaraj. He asked the Maharaja, you are taking all the money from us farmers. How much have you given back to the farmers? Then Maharaja cross-checked and found that the entire money is paid as salary to these Brahmins who are occupying the public posts. This question opened the eyes of the Maharaja to appoint a committee under the chairmanship of the then Chief Judge of the Mysore High Court, Justice Leslie Miller, an Irishman. He was the chairman of the committee, and his committee recommended reservation in favor of the non-Brahmins after collating the data based on the 1911 census, and reservation was scientifically introduced in favor of the backward classes. The phrase backward classes was for the first time used in the year 1918 in the state of Mysore. In the interregnum, Chhatrapati Sahu Maharaj of Kolhapur had introduced reservation in the year 1902. 50% reservation was provided. Following this, 1921, the Madras Presidency introduced reservation after the election of the Justice Party to administer that presidency. And then afterwards, in Bombay Presidency, also reservation came to be introduced. Like this, reservation came to be introduced. Now, why I am giving you these details is the genesis of the concept of social justice in the form of reservation of posts. For the first time, came into existence because the first census of 1872 exploded the myth that the Brahmins had a huge population in the country. And it was shown that they occupied an infinitesimally small percentage of population in the country, but commanded monopoly over the state services. So 1972 census, thereafterwards 1872 census, thereafterwards 1881 census, and 1891 census, and 1901 census collected comprehensive details about the caste. But the best caste data was collected in the 1911 census, when Mr. Hutton was the census commissioner, followed by 1921 census, where a comprehensive data collection was made in respect of all castes and communities. 1931 also collected exhaustive details about the castes and communities, so no caste could claim that it has a preponderance of in the population, though it was found to be preponderant, having preponderance in the state administration over the public posts. It is at that point of time, after the 1931 census, when the 1941 census was being conducted, because of the Second World War, the census operations could not be completed, and the figures or the data collected was not comprehensive enough to claim that it is 100%. It is at that point of time we won our independence in the year 1947 after the 1941 census. One of the reasons why many people opposed reservation, many people opposed independence to India was they were apprehensive that the reins of administration would be handed over to a community which will have a sway, which will have control over the administration and the policies of the country. That is why Baba Sahib Ambedkar made it a point that together with political freedom, it is very important that social democracy is also achieved. He was striving for that purpose, and it was at that juncture we got our independence in 1947. The first census was conducted in the year 1951, by which time Brahmins had perpetuated their rule in the country, as they held a complete control over the Indian National Congress, which was the ruling party of that time. 1951 census was the first census conducted by independent India, and the first decision taken by the Brahmins was to delete the caste column from the census operations. So 1951 onwards, we don't have caste details. In 1955 came the Kaka-Kalelkar report, which recommended 70% reservation in favor of backward classes. 70% reservation was recommended because they constituted 70% of the population. This was opposed by the same Brahmins who had denied caste enumeration in 1951 census on the ground that Kalelkar did not have the caste details. In particular, he did not have the actual population of each caste to determine whether the average, the state average of that caste in terms of socio-educational and economic factors would be forward or backward. So Kaka Kalelkar report was shelved by Nehru. And most important aspect is, what is the percentage of literacy in each caste? This was suppressed by Nehru because the only time-bound program under the Constitution, under Article 45 of the Constitution, was to achieve 100% literacy by educating all the people in the country. Article 45 is the only time-bound constitutional program which required universal education, universal free and compulsory education. Kindly mark, universal free and compulsory education. Nehru was the only person in control of the entire administration in the country. He did not even bother to implement this constitutional program. So Atal Bihari Vajpayee found it convenient to replace this article itself and remove that constitutional time-bound program of 10 years, because it was a shame on the administration that even 60 years, 50 years after independence, they were unable to achieve this 10-year goal of universal, free and compulsory education. So they have now replaced it by conferring the status of a fundamental right on right to education. That is besides the point. But what is very important is, we don't have the details of what is the percentage of literacy among the Yadavas, among the Kurmis, among the fishermen, among the barbers, among the washermen. This was a deliberate mischief by the then Union administration, suppressing knowledge and data about the Shudras. As a result of which, we don't know the exact population of the caste. We don't know the exact population of the percentage of doctors in that community, lawyers in that community, teachers in that community, graduates in that community, or literates in that community. So this was a very good weapon for those opposing reservation to question any action to reserve posts or reserve seats in educational institutions on the ground. It is not based on empirical data. And ruling after ruling has been doling out the need to provide reservation only on the basis of empirical data. I have myself argued before the Honorable Supreme Court the need to collect caste details through census. Unfortunately, none of the judgments Supreme Court has accepted that demand, has directed that caste census be collected. On the contrary, when a High Court directed caste enumeration in census, that has been struck down by the Supreme Court, saying that it is a matter of policy. The High Court cannot direct the collection of the data. So we are now placed at a position where The union government has suppressed this data by deleting the caste column from the census operations from 1951. And the courts, judgment after judgment, are declaring that reservation is bad if it is not supported by empirical data. The net result is today we do not have reservation on a scientific basis, more so because even in political institutions like Gram Panchayats, Taluk Panchayats, Jilla Panchayats, and the local administration in the cities and towns like municipalities or corporations, reservation is provided in favor of backward classes, but we don't have the percentage of their population to provide reservation. As a result of which, the ban against increase of reservation above 50% has not been challenged successfully for want of empirical data. Even after the Supreme Court directed that such data should be collected and placed before the court in order to justify 69% reservation in Tamil Nadu, no such details are collected till this day. No census operations are conducted. Why is the Census Department not collecting those details when the Supreme Court wants that data to support 69% reservation? Nobody has asked this question to the Census Department. Not even the Supreme Court has asked the Census Department why they are not collecting the data. Likewise, 73% reservation was provided, which came to be stayed by the Supreme Court in respect of state of Karnataka. State of Karnataka has also been directed to collect empirical data to justify if there is a need for higher quantum of reservation, higher percentage of reservation beyond 50%. And spending over 170 crore rupees, the state of Karnataka has collected those details, but the state administration has frustrated that exercise because the caste to which the chief minister at that point of time belonged would be a caste which would be exposed as having lesser population than what it claims and what it has monopolized or what it has already grabbed in terms of the opportunities politically, administratively, economically, and in terms of all other resources of the state. So there is a deep-seated prejudice and conspiracy by the upper caste who are ruling the country and the state, Karnataka, to steal from the public the vital information about the caste population of each caste, the educational backwardness or forwardness, literacy, graduation, postgraduates, professional education, and things like that. As also the representation they have secured in the various departments of the state government and the public sector undertakings. This is the deep-seated conspiracy which has resulted in deleting caste column from the census operation from 1951. After a very serious agitation was made, in the year 2011, I was part of that movement where the Dravida Kalagam, Dr. Veeramani and we participated in several agitational activities. We contacted the powers that be and impressed upon them the need to collect that data. And finally, thanks to Mr. Pranab Mukherjee, who was then the finance minister, a policy decision was taken by the union cabinet to collect the caste details in the 2011 census operation. But this was sabotaged by the then Home Minister, Mr. Chidambaram, who was dead set against collection of the caste details in respect of in the 2011 census, because his own community status in Tamil Nadu would be exposed as an infinitesimal minority caste. He did not want to suffer that political situation. Therefore, he sabotaged it by separating collection of caste details and handed it over to another Brahmin, Mr. Jairam Ramesh, in the Rural Development Department. And Mr. Jairam Ramesh collected the data and buried it under the carpet. He has not published it till this time. Very interestingly, when the National Commission demanded the data to be furnished to the National Commission under the chairmanship of Mr. Justice M.N. Rao, Union of India told Justice M.N. Rao Commission, that is the National Commission for Backward Classes, saying that the information is confidential, therefore it cannot be furnished. Then the Parliamentary Committee on Backward Classes demanded this information to be given. The Rural Development Department declared before the Parliamentary Committee that 99% of the data collected is free from any errors. Kindly mark this development. And now when the Supreme Court wants that information, they file an affidavit saying that the data is full of errors and therefore it cannot be published. Look at the kind of fallacy in the stand taken by the union government from time to time. Once before the National Commission saying that it is confidential, another time before a parliamentary committee saying that it is free from errors, and now before the Honorable Supreme Court saying that it is full of errors. I do not know what our backward classes parliament members are doing, why they are not taking up this issue on the floor of the House. I therefore call upon this August Assembly, which is discussing this all-important issue, to press for collection of this data in the 2021 census. And I may share with you one very important aspect. In the census operations hitherto conducted, there is a question in the questionnaire, column number 2.2, in section 2, collecting the general characteristics of the household. This is how the question reads. Question number 2. To which caste or community does the head of the household belong? So this column is already there in the questionnaire that is being provided. So the name of the head of the family as also his caste or community is required to be furnished. But below that, there is a qualification. Register the code in case of only scheduled castes and scheduled tribes. So in respect of others, this data is not being taken. So all that is required is, we don't require an enormous exercise. Delete this note in column 2 of section 2, where the caste or community details are being collected in respect of a head of the household. Please delete this note saying that it should be register the code only in case of scheduled caste or scheduled. That is all what is required to be done. That doesn't require any extra expenditure, no extra exercise is involved, and therefore it can be very conveniently and comprehensively achieved to collect. Unless this data is collected, we are bound to get some more judgment saying that the reservation is bad for not being supported by empirical data. It is also time for, I call upon the judiciary to rise to the occasion. Please mandate the census department to collect this detail. Every time you are striking down the reservation on the ground that there is no empirical data, why not you direct the census department to collect this data? How long you want to deny social justice to the backward classes? I think 70 years in their life has at least denied reservation benefits and social justice to over 5 generations. This should be stopped. And if that should be stopped, first and foremost thing is the data to be collected. I may share with you that everyone, right from Baba Sahib Ambedkar lamented way back in the year 1946 itself that this data is suppressed. The Shudras, I quote Ambedkar, if people have no idea of the magnitude of the problem of the Shudras, it is because they have not cared to know what the population of the Shudras is. Unfortunately, census does not show their population separately. But there is no doubt that excluding the untouchables, the Shudras form 75 to 80% of the population of Hindus. So, Baba Sahib Ambedkar himself lamented. Kaka Kalelkar Commission in the year 1955 condemned the action of the census department not collecting the caste details. Avnur Commission in the year 1975 condemned the census department for not collecting details and demanded that the caste details. Mandal Commission in the year 1980 demanded that the caste census should be conducted. But till now, these reports have been ignored. And it is therefore of utmost importance that a very vigorous struggle, an aggressive movement should be launched to open the eyes of the union government and to impress upon the need to collect this all-important empirical data, providing the caste population details of every caste in India, their socio-educational and economic profile, to highlight whether they should be considered as backward or not. Even though Mr. Rishi Raj was kind enough to mention my role in Ashok Kumar Thakur's case. In Ashok Kumar Thakur's case, this was debated in the court before a constitution bench. I argued for the need for collecting these details. Unfortunately, the judgment does not deal with this issue, does not direct or reject the demand made for collection of the caste details. But on the other hand, it has noticed that the challenge to the list of backward classes was essentially on the ground that it is not backed up by the empirical data. So therefore, friends, you have taken up a very good cause. There is full justification for the demand. And I wish you all success in your struggle to get this all-important data about the caste being collected. Failing which, we should conclude that the stranglehold of the Brahmins in this country is still strong and continuing without allowing the actual strength of the Shudras to be ascertained through the census. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity and wish this webinar a grand success. I am very happy to inaugurate it and throw open the floor for a discussion. Thank you.
Thank